How to lose over $400,000 flipping homes. Yes, that's what we're going to educate you on today on this YouTube video. So I have real world experience on this. Over the years, myself and along with different partnerships, I rounded it up and looked at it. And you can see from this spreadsheet here, over about the 400 plus flips I've done, I bet I've lost money on about 10% of them. Some of those were self-induced, like we caused the problem that lost the money. Some of them were market conditions, and some were a combination of both. So we're going to review 3 main points today that I've discovered on the best ways to lose money flipping. There's probably a bunch more, but from my experience, most of our problems can come down to these 3 points, and they are self-induced, meaning you didn't plan well or you did something wrong. The third one would be an extension of that, meaning you made bad assumptions. You either over or underestimated something. And the third one would be just like you did everything as well as you could have, but the market changed on you quickly. And I'm going to give you some examples of how that happened. But not all videos are like, yeah, we made X amount of dollars on this flip that turned out great. There's been some pain and suffering over the years in losing a lot of money. And I have felt it. These are just on flips. These 35 plus that I'm showing here, I quit counting after 2019. I think since 2019, I've probably lost on maybe 2 or 3 others, rounding it up to pretty close to 40, which is about 10% of the time I've been flipping, I've lost money. So I've lost plenty of money, both for myself and for my partners. So I might go out of order here a little bit in my 3, but my number 1 is market conditions can change when you're flipping homes over a short-term period. Sometimes you don't think the world can change that much in 6 months, but it can. I look back at some of the flips that we lost money on, and back in 2010, when the market was starting to pick back up, when President Obama was in office, there was a $8,000 tax credit, or well, it wasn't even a credit. It was like you got $8,000 if you bought a house. And so what that did, it's almost like today's version of low interest rates. It really fueled people to buy homes as quickly as they could, and the demand for homes really increased, and the supply wasn't as great for that brief period of time. So for example, say we bought a home in January to flip. In February, they announced that credit of $8,000. So buyers and agents were just out hustling to get homes because they could get that $8,000. So what that did temporarily is increase prices higher than what they normally would have been. And then what happens, say we're rehabbing that house, we get the home done in March or April, get it on the market, and this happened to us like on 3 or 4 homes. We executed right, we remodeled quickly, we hit our budget, but the $8,000 credit ended. So what did it do temporarily for about 2 to 3 months? Buyers that couldn't get that were really disappointed, so they stopped buying. And what did that do to prices? Prices quickly dropped. Not a lot, but they dropped off of where they were headed. And what that resulted into us is we actually were at a lower point on our ARV than when the year started in January. So we did all we could, but the market dropped, and so we lost money on a bunch of flips. Based on, my recap, it was about 8 or 9 flips that we lost money on right at that time. And it was really because we got caught up right in the time where we just missed the mark on getting those buyers with that $8,000 bonus or whatever for buying a house. The other time I can think is the obvious one. Before that, in 2007, 2008, when the financial crisis happened, if you had flips and you were expecting a high ARV, and then all of a sudden all these banks started going out of business and these bad mortgages were uncovered, prices dropped pretty quickly. People were not excited to buy houses. And so if you would have bought a flip right before that and then tried to sell it right after, you were losing money, even if you did everything right. And then the third example we might look back and say is today. If you would have bought a flip, say in March, get it, estimating the ARV based off of what it had been the last 6 months, come April, May, all of a sudden interest rates go from about 3.5 to 6, almost doubling. What has it done? That froth has come off the top. In some areas, prices have dropped 10, even 15%. And so even if you did everything right, you were thinking you'd hit an ARV of, say, 500 All of a sudden now, a few months later after interest rates are higher, that ARV is maybe more like 440 and you were hoping to make $50,000. Guess what? You just lost money flipping homes. So there can be risk in the short term with market conditions that are outside of your control. So what we decided to start doing is we would celebrate that because we did everything we could have done right. And the ball just didn't bounce our way. It was stuff outside of our control that we couldn't control. So I guess tip number one would be control what you can control, execute the best way you can. And if you get caught up in a short-term cycle that changes things, what are you going to do? You can't beat yourself up over it. You just got to kind of learn from it and tighten up your process even more. And now on the flip side, people have benefited greatly from screwing up based on the other two examples I'm going to tell you over the last couple years, because the market's just gone up, 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 and up and saved everybody and not exposed some of their bad practices. So the second example of where I've lost money, and this is probably the reason why we lost the money on most of our houses, is we got so excited about buying and we had enough success that when we had money available and we were good at finding deals, we just bought. And we kind of thought we had a plan, but it turned out we didn't really have a plan, because when we thought we could manage, say, 5 flips at a time, all of a sudden we thought, well, if we can do 5, why can't we do 15? Well, because it's a lot harder to do 15 than 5 if you don't have a detailed plan, systems, process, team, delegation, assistance, stuff like that. So what ends up happening, we basically do 15 to 20 at a time, no different than what we would do 5 at a time, meaning we could really only work at 5 at a time. So we'd have homes sitting for sometimes, I mean, it's embarrassing looking back, but we would have homes sitting for sometimes 12 months before we'd even start them. So what happens there? Your cost of interest goes through the roof. Your pro forma is blown because you were anticipating a 6-month flip time to make a certain amount of money. But now all of a sudden, even if you hit your remodel numbers right, your cost of interest for an extra 6 months or 12 months, that's just going to kill your profitability, especially if values aren't increasing like they have been this last couple years. And again, this video is August of 2022. And from about 2018-19 till about May, we've just been on a rocket ship as far as values. So in a normal market, you're not going to appreciate like we've appreciated to cover your mistakes of holding on to properties too long. So that would probably be the biggest mistake, is we bit off more than we could chew. We were doing too many houses without the right team, infrastructure, systems, and processes in place to to help us out. So the third reason, it's a little bit of a mix of the second reason, but we routinely would over and underestimate our assumptions. We would overestimate maybe what it would sell for, and we would underestimate what it would cost to rehab it. And part of this, I think, was because we got a little lazy. We'd have a lot of successes with houses, and we'd walk through a property and we'd be like, well, roofs are going to be $5,000, kitchen's going to be $4,000, but we really weren't taking the time to track our budget, really look back and say, what did we actually spend on that prior house? Is it really still $4,000 for the kitchen? So it's not an easy process, but what we've started doing more recently, if you can look at this budget, is we analyze every house that we did based on like a price per square foot, based on a kitchen size, what that kitchen's going to look like, what an average cost currently of a bathroom is, what it costs to frame, what are 2x4 costs. Like, you got to get really detailed and keep track of things, and then you'll be better able to estimate what your next house rehab is going to cost. Because as we've seen the last year or two, prices have gone through the roof on certain products. Labor's been more expensive, lumber's been more expensive, tile's been more expensive, everything's been more expensive. So if you are not tracking continually the cost of stuff, you may default back to like, well, I remember that house we did a year ago. It seems like the kitchen was $5,000. Let's put $5,000 down for the remodel. So even if you nail the ARV, but you're completely unrealistic and unorganized about your scope of work and what it's going to cost to rehab the property, you're going to end up losing money. So again, it's being realistic about your assumptions, not keeping track, not being organized. And so what we've instituted is like a look back on the projects we just did, trying to categorize into maybe like 10 to 15 specific categories so we can really keep track of what items went into each budget, and then also attributing that to like the square footage of the home so we can have a rough price per square foot of the home so it's easier to estimate the next project, and then also being really realistic about our timeline. We have a goal now for any home, no matter what the scope of the remodel is. Say it's a $250,000 remodel, we want to be in and out in 100 days or less. And so again, going back to the number 2, we're doing more than you can do at one time. If we can't do the homes that we're doing in 100 days or less, then we're probably taking on more projects than we have the resources for. So to recap, the 3 pitfalls that I've found in when we've lost money is 1, being caught up in a short-term market correction because of exterior forces or incentives that went away or interest rates that jumped up dramatically that you couldn't control. So control what you can control and be okay that the market changed on you because you can't change it. Number 2, doing more than you have the ability and resources to handle. So don't buy more flips than you have the Cruz for. Don't buy more flips than you have the rehab money for. Don't buy more flips than you have the manpower for. And number 3, over and underestimating your assumptions. So use a good fix and flip calculator, use a good budget tracker, use a good assumptions and timeline. And by mastering those 3, you're either going to sleep better at night, you're going to be more profitable, and sometimes less is more. You would rather do less flips and do them really well than do more flips and mess up on all of them. Thanks for watching the video. Reach out, keep subscribing, and look forward to doing more. Thanks.